Hello and welcome. My name's Kennedy from Before the Shot Clock. Sorry about last week. Obviously, things have been a little bit iffy and up in the air with my family recently. Just a background, I live with my grandfather and I take care of him, and he has dementia. So things have been a little bit inconsistent, and not to say that's fully to blame, but it's definitely something that I'm trying to balance as well as take care of myself. So I apologize for that week off, and I'm just happy to get back going and start talking about lacrosse again. So let's do this. So this past weekend was a great weekend of lacrosse. I had a bunch of really good games that are starting to get some more goals in them. I think the goalies are starting to show that they are human again after a little bit where we weren't sure if teams are going to be able to start beating these goalies. So yeah, let's get started. So Saskatchewan versus Halifax. The goaltending was really good still. You had Frank Giuliano versus Warren Hill. There's no surprise there when you got those two goalies in net, especially Warren Hill, that you're going to have a very good game goaltending-wise. Sask fans answered the call. Much better crowd this week after my comments saying that they haven't been supporting well enough. So way to bounce back, Saskatchewan fans. They filled up that barn pretty good. Still some room for improvement, but I think they bounced back and they were loud. So I think Saskatchewan's going to be happy with that. It was an exciting first half of lacrosse. I don't think the scoreline at the end of the game represented how close the game actually was. And that was not the way that I expected the game to go. But that's lacrosse. Always parity. You never know what's going to happen. That's why when I do these predictions for the future weeks, don't take these as the gospel, because at the end of the day, my guess is as good as yours. This past weekend, I did make predictions, even though we didn't put out an episode. I put out predictions for myself, and I think I got one right. So, I'm not always going to be right. So, yeah. So then Buffalo versus Vegas. That was Tucker Out Lymphoma Night. For people who don't know what Tucker Out Lymphoma Night is, it is for Tucker Williams, who passed away as a child, and he had cancer. And his father is Sean Williams, who is the coach of the Vegas Desert Dogs. And his brother is Dyson Williams, who plays for the Oshawa Firewolves. So they started doing this game once a year in Buffalo, and it's become a yearly thing, an annual thing. And this year happened to be that the Buffalo Bandits did Tucker Out Lymphoma Night on the same night as they were playing Vegas. So Tucker's father. So it was nice to see a full crowd there, and both teams wore the theme jersey, which is really cool. Those jerseys are usually auctioned off after the game to the fans. And all the money goes to help with lymphoma cure, I believe. I could be wrong, but it does go to a good cause. So the seventh goal of the game, scored by Buffalo, was by Ian McKay. Ian McKay usually scores a couple goals a game. I wouldn't say he's your top goal scorer on Buffalo. He's probably their fourth or fifth option. But he did have a really good game. I had to watch his goal, the seventh goal of the game, several times over to see what he did. I think it was a backhand twister, and there was a lot of speed coming off of it, and it went to the far corner. So for non-lacrosse fans, that is a crazy move to pull off. That is, to me, more impressive than a behind the back or a behind the head shot. So, I mean, you just got to watch that goal. You can see that on NLL Plus. It'll be in the highlights just to see what I'm really talking about. But that was a gross goal. Lots of pretty goals in this one. A couple diving goals through the crease. It was a high-scoring affair, which was really nice to see, because we haven't had too many of those this year. But yeah, Landon Kell showed he was human again, and then Alex Bouquet came in as everybody's favorite NL backup goalie. He's had some amazing interviews in the past, and he's just a likable guy. So Alex Bouquet came in, but Landon Kells did show he was human again and kind of got lit up, to be honest with you. Buffalo's home advantage seemed to be in effect, which I think helped them a lot against Vegas. And I must say the Farrell versus Hammer Jackson face-off battle was fun to watch. Both guys are full of personality, but they're also both masters of their craft. So that was really, really quite cool. So we might have some goalie controversy, though. As I was mentioning about the Landon Kells, Alex Bouquet thing. We might have some goalie controversy in Vegas. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens. Because that will be a big thing for Vegas if they want to succeed. You can't be in the NL and be a good team, no matter how good your team is, if your goaltending sucks. Or if your goaltending is going through something. Even if they don't suck, if they're not consistent, you can't really win a title like that. I do got to give credit to Vegas because they didn't give up. They went on a bit of a run in the fourth quarter. Yet Buffalo did finish with a W. They really kept it going right till the end. And at some times looked like they might have been out of it. Scary moment for Zach Belter. I think that's worth mentioning. He was knocked out once again, but this time by his former teammate Chase Fraser on a hip toss during a tussle. Okay, this is where things get a little weird because guys get knocked out. That's a part of sports. But he did get knocked out in a fight in a one punch by Elijah Gash of the Toronto Rock last year. And now it's 2 knockouts in 2 years where he's flat out. So I think, I'm no doctor, so I'm not going to tell him what to do. But as somebody who's struggled with concussions, I think he needs to take a step back and think about this and see what's more important at this point. Is it the sports, or is it the, or is it his mental health for the rest of his life? So I hope that the doctors and the trainers and himself are thinking about these things because it's bigger than the sport at that point. Ottawa, Oshawa. We're supposed to be on site. I want to thank the Oshawa Firewolves for hooking myself and it was supposed to be Nitro up with tickets. I did experience some family issues that enabled me from going. However, Oshawa has reached out to me and they would like to bring me out for another game this year. So we will be in a game in Oshawa later this season, and I'm excited for that very much so. Reed Kurtz with a highlight goal. Reed Kurtz, former Before the Shot Clock alumni, with a highlight goal after ragdolling the ball on a 2-on-1 for about 15 seconds. He was getting the crap beaten out of him. He still held onto that ball, and then he made a diving goal across the crease. It was beautiful. His brother Ty also had a huge game for Oshawa, so it was cool to see the Kurtz ball really in full effect out there. Dyson Williams, we talked about him earlier, about his brother Tucker. He had a beautiful behind the back goal highlight. It's posted on our story. If you catch it quick soon, it might still be up there. Alex Simmons had a big game, and it seemed like Oshawa's offense really woke up. I mean, they've been sleepy the last couple weeks, and they started the season really, really quiet. The guys that we thought were going to be stepping up for them were not stepping up, so it was really nice to see them fully hit that potential and put the ball in the back of the net. Truly, they didn't win the game at the end of the day, but they look good. Lot to talk about in this game. Once again, Callum Jones makes me happy to watch play. Someone's got to make it a highlight reel for the guy of just highlights of him playing defense. For all those defensive lacrosse fans, he's a dog. I love watching him play. But you could literally make a highlight reel of just good defensive plays. So someone please do that, because this guy right here would greatly appreciate that. Jeff Teat, consistently showing that he's the LeBron James of lacrosse right now, and there's no argument that can be made otherwise. He is so good at every facet of the game. I'm so impressed watching Jeff T. And like, he's young. That's the scary thing. He's young. Like, he's only going to get better. So we'll see how his career takes off over the years, but I'm super excited to see what Jeff T does over the next little bit. That was a 4-quarter game for Ottawa as well, which I think led them to the W. Potentially one of the best lacrosse games I've seen so far this year, but it was nice to see Ottawa kind of put all 4 quarters together again. They're starting to really make it happen, so that was awesome. I also want to thank Reed Kurtz. Him and I have been talking, and he's going to be bringing me out to Ottawa for a game this season. So I'm super excited that we can bring Before the Shot Clock out to Ottawa to really encapsulate what a fan experience is like in Ottawa, and what it's like going to an NLL game. So people who may not have access to go to Buffalo Bandits games or Toronto Rock games, now because of these teams and these players reaching out to me, we're going to be able to go to Oshawa this year, and we're going to be able to go to Ottawa this year, and we're going to be able to tell people what the NLL experience is like. And I think that'll help get more eyes on the game and make people want to get out and go on a Friday night or a Saturday night and go watch some lacrosse. There's lots of diving goals this weekend. I was really, really interested. I found that interesting to see. Usually a couple, but there was a lot more this week. High flyers, I guess, these guys can jump, so they're showing it off. And the offenses are starting to click now. So goalies are starting to be beatable. So you're going to see a lot more high-scoring games. The first little bit of the season was just wars. It was just constant defense. Now we're starting to see some goalies get beat, which is nice to see. So yeah, that was it about the Ottawa-Oshawa game. So next up, we're going to talk about Rochester, Colorado. Colorado, Jack Hanna has arrived. He gets the first 2 goals of the game, and I think that set that team off on the right way. That arena was rocking. Colorado's always had a really passionate fan base and a good fan base, but it does come across to me like their fans are more invested than ever. I didn't expect Rochester to lose that game to Colorado, but weirder things have happened. Again, it is the NLL. There is a ton of parity. Friend of the program, Warren Jeffrey with a goal. Shout out Warren. Beat 2 guys in his own end, went end to end, scored, and then the guy got in his face, and he did what Warren Jeffrey does. Threw the guy. That's what happens. It's what happens when you mess with the Moose. Lanchbury and Fields with great big point games. Lanchbury with 7 points and Fields with 8. So those guys got to be happy about their performances. Obviously, they didn't get the W, but they got to be happy with that. I think the scoreline flattered Colorado as they potted 3 empty netters at the end of the game. So if you're just looking at it from a stat sheet perspective, it's not going to show off everything. Ryland Hartley was also pulled. So that was different too. Hartley's, if you've watched past episodes or kept up with the NLL this year, you'll see that Hartley's been kind of one of the standout goalies this year. So that kind of was an off night for him. But yeah. Okay. And last but not least, in game reviews. So game recaps. So Roughnecks versus Seals. That's Calgary versus San Diego. Stay classy, San Diego. It was not a thing that we could say this week, but that game was a war. San Diego's yellow jerseys might be the best in the league, and I love Danny Logan's balls to the walls play, like his mentality, the way he is. He is a fast breakout kind of guy. You never know what you're going to get out of Danny Logan. Tried to fight Aiden Walsh, it looked like at one point, shot after the whistle, created like a whole line brawl situation. I don't know. Personally, I like those kind of guys. I know that they shouldn't do stuff like that, but keeps things interesting, man. Trey Leclerc, I think it's Trey Leclerc. Leclerc and Kavanaugh and Berg, the trio is fun to watch. Those three are awesome, man. You got two field guys. Technically, Berg's a field guy too. So basically, like 3 field guys that just work the ball so well. They're all so dangerous. But at the end of the day, Calgary wins. They needed they had a much needed W. And it was nice to see Calgary shooters start to convert on a higher rate, led by Dixon and Cook. Starting to put the ball in the back of the net, which was the one thing I thought Calgary struggled with most this year. Game C7 previews. We're going to knock these out real quick. So I've got Halifax winning its height 1 in the Halifax versus Ottawa game. I think they're going to be ready. They need a bounce back after Saskatchewan, and I think this Eastern Canadian team matchup will potentially be a rivalry that we will see for a long time. Rochester, Philly. I've got Rochester in a bounce back game after losing to Colorado. I don't think we're going to see Rochester lose very much this year, and I think that was one of the few that we just saw. Vancouver versus Calgary. I've got Vancouver beating Calgary after taking the week off, and I think they're going to be ready to go in a rough game. It's going to be a great game. If you're planning to find a game to watch, I think that's going to be one of the top games to watch this week. Saskatchewan versus Vegas. I got Vegas winning in a close one. Both teams are going to be built to grind out against each other. I don't think either team really has solidified a guy to be the guy on their team. So they are more of a production by committee type of build on both of their teams. So it really comes down to which committee is more ready to score and which goalie is more beatable. Are we going to see another Landon Kells bounce back game or an Alex Buki bounce back game? Or are they going to get lit up? We'll see. Toronto versus San Diego. I've got Toronto in a close one, but it could go either way. It depends which team's ready to play. You never know in lacrosse, right? So Toronto is flying to the West Coast. That's not going to help them. But the thing about lacrosse is a lot of those guys are also, a lot of those San Diego guys are also from Ontario. So we'll be flying out to the West Coast. So is that an advantage? Maybe not. Maybe the San Diego guys get an extra day out there. But we'll see. It's a double header week for several teams. Rochester being one of them as they take on Buffalo in their second of 2. I think Buffalo wins just purely on energy and physical health. You know, Rochester is playing 2 games in one weekend, and lacrosse is a battle. Like when I used to play Senior C, we played 4 games in 2 days. By the 4th game, I'm dead. You know, so I think 4 games in a weekend is insane and too much. Maybe when we were young, we could have done that easily, but at that level and that physicality, 2 games is a lot even in a weekend. The other doubleheader game is Halifax versus Oshawa. So Halifax is the doubleheader team. I think Oshawa will beat Halifax, again, purely on energy and health. And I think Oshawa's offense is ready to click. That last week showed that, and I think they're ready to turn their season around a little bit. Last game of the week is Georgia versus Colorado, and I think Colorado will come out on top with a big Jack Hanna and Will Malcolm game. So we will see what happens. Okay, so that's the future week. Tune in. You can watch anything on NOL Plus, ESPN Plus, or TSN Plus. So make sure you check out all those things and get your lacrosse on this weekend. There's a ton of games. That's a big weekend of lacrosse. We got double headers. What? I'm excited. I don't know about you. There's like 5 games on Friday. Anyway, lacrosse story. We do a weekly lacrosse story every week. So here we go. This one, I'm not going to say the names of the guys who were involved in this story because both of them are, they're both still friends of mine. I don't want this to come across as a crash on their character because they're two of the sweetest guys I've ever met in my life. I think when they were younger, they might have had a little bit of a mean streak where they didn't want to be pushed around. And also, they're both loving fathers. And I don't think that if their kids ever come across this, that they want their dads portrayed in this way, or they want their kids to see them in this way. So, 2 gentlemen that I played lacrosse with when I played for Six Nations, and this could have happened on any team. Don't get me wrong. We just had 2 guys didn't like being pushed around. Okay, I'm gonna use a word. I'm gonna use a. You can fill in the blanks. Okay, so we're getting ready to play in a tournament. Okay, it might have even been provincials. We're about to play Mimico, and we're in the locker, and we got 2 guys on our team, 2 of the biggest guys on our team. And those guys, I saw them fight on several occasions throughout the season. Well, the smaller guy calls the bigger guy. These are my teammates. They both played defense in front of me when I was a goalie. The smaller one calls they're both big again. The smaller guy calls the bigger one the B word. Okay? And he goes, "Oh yeah? You think so? Hit me right here." So he goes, "Okay, I will." He goes, "All right, hit me right here." Well, the smaller guy decides that he's going to just starts throwing. Throws a punch. They get into a full-on brawl in the change room. Craziest fight I've ever seen. So many great connections. You know, they throw all around the change room. They're hitting walls. Well, the smaller guy hits the bigger guy with a knee to the teeth. The bigger guy loses a tooth, maybe even 2 teeth, before the game. They went out and played defense together that game. Coach was obviously pissed, but they went out there and they played together in that game. They played great, honestly. No, after the fight, everybody was cool. It was all good. I was a little stunned about what happened, so it kind of threw me off, I'm not going to lie. And I used to have, from hitting my post, I used to have a lot of red paint on my stick. And I wasn't sure if it was blood or red paint, so I remember taking my stick to the washroom and trying to wipe off the red paint on my stick, thinking it might have been blood. It was red paint, but I was afraid they bled on my stick before the game. But they went out and played. The bigger guy who got his teeth knocked out went and missed a game later on in the season because he had to go to the dentist. But funny enough, those guys were good buds throughout the whole season. So, I mean, it was crazy that happened. I think that animosity needed to happen, but it brought all the guys closer, and that was an awesome experience. I don't recommend fighting your teammates, but that was something I'll always remember, and I think it's a story that you guys will find entertaining. Shout out to those 2 guys and anybody who was on that lacrosse team with me, because they will remember that lacrosse team I played on. We threw down as a team quite a few times. One of our guys, Broderick Rennie, ended up becoming an MMA fighter after his minor lacrosse career. So he's a pretty successful MMA fighter. So, you know, we had a lot of guys who could fight on our team, and those 2 were our big mountains that used to just ragdoll dudes. And have a lot of good memories of those guys throwing down. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the episode, and we'll talk next week. Enjoy the lacrosse. Take care.